Val, do we know if Jessie's coming? Do we know if Jessie's coming?
I literally went, that's brilliant, and then I...
Yes. Okay. So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this, the very first Community and Tourism of the civic year 2025-26. I'm Drew, the Mayor of Newquay, and it is my pleasure to open to the floor for item number 1, which is the election of chairman or chairperson for the 2025-26 civic year for Community and Tourism. Can I go out to the floor for nominations for chair? Councillor Motta.
I would like to nominate Councillor Wright as chair of Community and Tourism.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Thank you, Councillor Martin. And all in favour? Liz, are you voting for or against yourself?
I will vote for myself.
Oh, very good. Congratulations. You are now the chair of TNT for 2024-25. I shall step aside.
Thank you, everybody. I look forward to chairing the Community and Tourism Committee for a second term, but with a brand new, almost completely brand new C&T committee. So that's very exciting. Still, bear with me a second. iBabs is challenging me. Okay. I'm in. Item 2 is election as Vice Chair for the civic year 2025-26. Do we have any nominations? Excellent. I would like to second that. All those in favour of Councillor Jacobs as Vice Chair? You don't get a vote. Awesome. Thank you very much. All those, that is unanimous. Lovely. Okay, so item number 3, any apologies from this evening? Louise, I have seen a couple. Joe, are you?
We've only had officer apologies from the CCTV manager and the TIC manager.
Okay, we have had a late apology from Councillor North, who said she's not on the committee, but she would like to be here, but no, she's not. But just for minuting. Any interests? Item number 4. No interest? Excellent, okay. And the minutes from our previous meeting, which is from the 20th of March 2025. Any issues raised from that from anyone? No one was here, just me. Okay, I would like to propose the meeting minutes from the 20th of March. Is anybody able to vote on that because no one was here, or is it just?
It's just for noting, sorry, I'm doing your job before you do, apologies. It's just for noting, so you don't actually need to have been here.
Okay. Do I need to approve, do we need to vote on those anyway?
Yes,
Okay.
still need a seconder, Chair.
Okay. I'll propose those. Could I have a seconder? Thank you very much. Councillor Williams, all those in favour? Just, yeah, for noting. Okay, item number 6, matters arising. No, nope. Okay, open sessions for electors, either verbal or written. Have we got any written?
There is a written question in your packs, so it's in regards to an update on the Welcome to Newquay signage.
Okay.
So this has been a project which has been in the progress for about 4 years now. So the question is, the Duchy and Town Council have been working on the delivery of new Newquay signage for over 4 years now. Could the officers please update the new members and Newquay residents as to what progress has been made on this project and when the three signs will be in place and what the signage will look like? So I have included in your packs just a bit of a précis of our discussions with the Duchy last year as a bit of a context for some of you newer members that might not be familiar, and to be fair, some existing members might not be familiar with it either. So Mark will probably know this more than anyone, but there were 3 signs at 3 different entrances into Newquay. One is still existing, which is on the Tregonwell roundabout, so it's this blue and yellow sign. One was removed on Quintrell Road as you head towards Nansledden. So the Duchy approached us at that time and asked if we could give them permission for its removal. At that same time, they offered, as part of that, they would essentially provide us substitute replacement signs for all 3.
Okay.
In that negotiation, and that's kind of where we are. So they removed that existing one. I think there's still 2 remaining. I'm not so sure because the second one is by Rumbles, so the old road into Newquay from the airport, which has now been substituted by the new road. So I think that's still there. So essentially last year we discussed locations, we discussed initial designs, and in your pack on the last page of that section is the final design. I appreciate it's in black and white, so probably it's very small because it's A1 kind of scaled down to A4. So it's better to look at it digitally. So where we are with the first one, it's been fully designed, and now it's waiting approval from Cornwall Council Highways for them to install it. The second one will be going before the primary school with the exact location to be finalised, and then the final 3rd sign is still yet to be determined because we were a bit, we weren't in agreement of where that should go.
Okay, thank you. Has anybody got any questions about this? Because I have a couple. Councillor Jacobs.
Yes. Nansledden and Newquay, is that a new brand? Is that what you'll see as you enter Greater Newquay? I'm not saying we're called Greater Newquay, but as in these, what's the consultation been on this wording of Nansledden? Sorry, I need to do that, don't I? Right, sorry. I'll ask that again for public record. So the signs that I'm looking at the moment say Nansledden and Newquay. This is the first that I've ever heard of a Nansledden and Newquay brand. Where are these going? Is this about the entrance to Nansledden, or is this the entrance to Newquay as a town? Because if these are signs to Newquay as a town, if Nansledden and Newquay start appearing across the town without any public consultation, there are going to be huge problems. So I'd like to know the background on this. I would say it would be hugely problematic if this goes ahead without any public engagement, because it could literally be seen as a rebranding of the town.
Sure, agreed. Councillor Creek.
Thank you, Chair. Congratulations. I have to say, as the Mayor of Newquay currently, I feel very uncomfortable with the idea that we are, in the same way that Councillor Jacobs has just said, branding it as Nansledden and Newquay. My understanding is that Nansledden is part of Newquay and not an additional town on the side of Newquay, as I made the point at the annual parish meeting a couple of weeks ago to a resident. So I'd be really interested to understand, is this the final draft? And if so, who approved it from a town council perspective? Because I would be really uncomfortable with having those signs out there. It's Newquay or nothing as far as I'm concerned.
Agreed. Councillor Motta.
Yes, I would like to echo as well. I'm not feeling very comfortable with this branding. And, you know, I know grammatically NA comes before NE, but yeah, if it's for grammar, you know, there's a point, but I don't think it should be by a grammar.
Okay.
Thank you.
Joe, could you come back on some of those points, please?
In terms of the consultation, the council itself and this committee was consulted. So this report did go to that committee.
When was that?
Well, this report was written in April, so it would have been around that time. So I did circulate this to committee for feedback. I did circulate it to, also the chair of planning was involved at the same time. So all I can say is the first sign is already made.
The colourful one that says Nansledden
Yeah.
and Newquay.
Yeah.
Which is going
Which
to
is
go
the
by
one which is going to
Nansledden.
come in, which is essentially that direction. So from the airport in that direction, that's where that sign will be.
So that one that's going to sit on the Newquay, on the kind of Quinchell Jones Road.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure which one is going where, but
Because if that one, I suppose you can kind of forgive if it's next door to Nansledden.
there's two
But
pretty
any
much.
of the others?
Yeah, so you've got that road coming into Nansledden into the roundabout, and then you've also got the road coming from the airport, which is.
But that one
also
doesn't.
gonna have a sign
That one
as well.
doesn't seem to have any wording on it. It just is a picture of a surfer.
Yeah, so there's
which is-
two still to be finalised.
Okay.
And the wording of those two signs are still yet to be finalised. So
Okay.
if this committee and this administration want to take a different direction with it, then that's entirely your prerogative. I can only say that the Duchy have made this current sign and the previous administration was consulted on it. So
Okay. Councillor Jacobs.
Yeah. Yeah, could I make a proposal from this meeting that this needs to be paused to be brought to full council, because it is, even if it just appears in Nansledden, it could be seen as a rebranding of Newquay and Nansledden. There is, you know, we also have Pentyre, which is another huge conurbation that's part of Newquay.
Yeah.
There are no signs saying Pentyre and Newquay. I know that, you know, Nansledden will technically be bigger, but having seen, you know, that what seems like a simple sign could cause huge amounts of problems for the town council and the town, I think this needs to be paused. And so I would ask for, can we make a recommendation or a vote from this meeting that this is paused till further consultation?
Thank you. Councillor Creek.
Sorry, Joe, I'm just going back through. I had a quick look through the agendas of the C&Ts of April, March and August, which are the three around that time, and it's not on any of the agendas. So this committee hasn't agreed to, certainly hasn't ratified that decision. I can see that it was sent on an email in April, but the email seemed to suggest that it was notes for information, as opposed to this was a decision that has been agreed and ratified by the council. So it looks like Councillor Kenny, was there? And Councillor Cheney, who unfortunately obviously not on the council anymore. It says he was, I suppose he was the chair of C&T at that time. But it's definitely not come through a committee for a decision by this body at all.
I
And
haven't
it certainly
seen it
hasn't
until
gone
today.
through full council as a decision, and as Councillor Jacobs quite rightly points out, it's quite a ramification to that sign. And whilst I agree to a point with you, Councillor Wright, that it being by Nansleddon, there's almost an argument, I still stand by my original point that it is part of Newquay, and it's Newquay or nothing. So whether the sign's been made or not, I think I would firstly suggest that as a committee, you might want to write to the Duchy explaining that at no point has this council ratified a decision for that sign, and actually it feels really uncomfortable with the branding of that. And there are other ways to brand it, let's be really clear, to highlight the Nansleddon within the Newquay.
In Newquay.
But it's
maybe.
the Nansleddon and Newquay.
Nansleddon in
But yeah.
Newquay, I mean, that's
Nansleddon
just a
in
change of,
Newquay,
that would be
yeah.
the change of one of an and to a, you know, like the branding's lovely.
Yeah.
But it's the connotations of
The and,
Nansleddon
it's a
and
separate
Newquay.
entity.
You're
Yeah.
basically setting out the future of this whole area.
Yeah. Okay, so as a committee then, are we saying that we would like to pause this? We will contact the Duchy and say that exactly what Councillor Creek just said, that this has not been ratified, and then bring it back to a full council meeting. Pop it on an agenda for the next time council meeting. Is that okay? Would you like to propose again what you said before, and then do we need to do
Just a
that?
procedural, because it's not actually an agenda item. I think it's just a case
It
I
was a
take.
question, wasn't it? Came
It
from
was, so I
the
think it's just a
electorate.
case of I'll take that steer from this committee, and if the mayor's happy, it'll be tabled at full council.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I'll contact the Duchy and take the sentiment away, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. We don't need to vote on that.
And if the Duchy want to pay for some public engagement on the future of the wording and language of the growing town alongside Newquay, we'd be very happy to, I'm sure the council would be very happy to receive some funds from them to do some public engagement on the name of the future of Newquay.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
I'd like to question why they are different from each other. They're fabulous. I like them all, apart from the wording. You know, it's representative of the town, and I like them. Is it normal to have different welcome signs to a town like this, or does it matter, or is it absolutely okay, actually? Are we happy with the pictures, basically?
We'll put that out to the group, to the committee. Yes, Councillor Creek.
Sorry, one more thing. So just to go back again to your point, Val, I think the ones that we had previously, the Coast of Dreams signage, which I actually really liked. I mean, it looks tired now, I get that, and it does need a bit of an update. I think it does what it says on the tin, and it gives a really nice branding for Newquay. But yes, it does need an update. But I agree with you, actually. It should be three specific signs of the same, basically the same thing 3 times is what I'm trying to say. Exactly like we had before, probably, adjusting the locations given the changes to the road network. But yeah, I can't get on board with that at all. And I've had very little to do with this over the years. I remember Councillor Hannon telling me about this at one point, but the conversation that we had was more akin to, we're just updating the Coast of Dreams and the Duchy have offered to pay for it. And at the time I thought to myself, there must be a catch.
Could I say, I think they are fabulous, and it would be lovely to have them somewhere around the town, at the entrance or, in different places. They're beautiful. But if we're talking about the brand, it needs to be a single visual something as people arrive, it seems to me.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Martin. Okay, so Joe, you have actions to take away on that. Is that all okay? Great. Okay. Moving on, we have item number 8, which is the CCTV manager's report, which everyone's got in their packs. Charity's not here. Are you stepping in? No?
No, I'm not your CCTV manager at the moment in time, or the other managers who aren't here. So they will just be for noting, Chair.
Just for noting. Okay. Has anybody got any points that they want to raise from the CCTV manager's report? Are we happy just to approve that, move on? Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, lovely.
Sorry, Chair. Quickly on the CCTV, you'll note in Charity's report that there is a tendering exercise currently underway for the repair and maintenance contract. So given our timescales and your schedule of meetings, I think it's likely that I might be seeking delegated authority in July for myself and the RFO and the CCTV manager to evaluate the tenders. I'll come to you at that point, but our repair and maintenance contract ends in October, and I think it'd be quite short if we tried to wrap it up in September, but I'll come to it in July if members are satisfied with that.
Yep, happy with that. Councillor Motta.
Yeah, just there is in the report there is an acronymus ASB. There's been a considerable amount of ASB in this location. Do we know what ASB means?
Antisocial behaviour.
Antisocial behaviour, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Excellent. Okay. Item number 9 is the Library Service Manager's report. Is there any points that need to be raised from this one that you're aware of, Joe, or again, just for noting?
I don't think
Joe.
there's any, I mean, there's not, I don't think there's anything
Major.
contentious that needs to be brought to committee in it. It's largely just for information. Just to say we are doing a project with Cornwall Council Libraries in the next couple of weeks with an organisation called Poverty Proofing, who are doing a piece of work trying to kind of, there's a known link between poverty and poor literacy, and they're trying to sort of do some work. It's been funded by the Arts Council, I think, and they're trying to do some work around what are the barriers facing working class communities accessing libraries. So Newquay are one of the sites that they've chosen, so they're coming in a couple of weeks to talk to us just to start the ball rolling.
Okay. Is that a national campaign that they're doing?
It's a national campaign. Well, they've chosen Cornwall, and Newquay's one of the areas that they're going to. I think they're going to Redruth and Cambourne as well.
Great. And what will that lead to in terms of activity? This is an exploration.
Yeah, I think at the moment it's just to kind of trying to get more clarity on what it is that, what the barriers are that stop people from accessing libraries.
Great.
And we'll see. I think it will just be a report at the end.
Oh, okay.
At the end of it for the library world,
Okay.
if you like.
Sure. Thank you, Councillor Martin.
Presumably you're working with schools as well on this. Are you working with other agencies, or is it still in its infancy? I was going to say, is it still very early days yet? It's something that is quite close to my heart, and I would be really interested to know more about it as it goes on.
Yeah, it's very much in its early stages. So we've got an exploratory meeting with them, I think in about 2 weeks' time. We've put them in touch with other local agencies, like because obviously if they're coming to the library to speak to people who don't access the library's not the best place to start. So they're going to speak to people like Storehouse, Salvation Army, people like that.
Food bank.
Yeah, Home Start Care now, that places like that really. But yeah, it's very, very early days, and yeah, more information when I get it.
All good wishes.
Great. Thank you. Is there any update on the Arts Council bid that went in from the library and the Town Council?
So we didn't get the original bid.
Okay.
But we had some very useful feedback. So we've sort of gone back to the drawing board really to look at what else we can do. And we're just sort of trying to thrash. I think we need to go smaller.
Okay.
And more planned. I I think the feedback that we got from the Arts Council really was that they like to see things in place before they give you the money, which presents us with some challenges from a town council point of view around procurement and that kind of thing. So we're trying to feel our way through that at the moment. But also they wanted sort of more of a planned approach. So we were a bit kind of scattergun, I think, with it. So we have had sort of, we've had meetings, we put a call out for creatives, and we had a very useful meeting with two artists who've done quite a lot of this sort of work around the county, which was very useful, but it's the procurement side of it that we need to kind of pin down a little bit. So, yeah.
Okay. I'm happy to support with that if I can. I know we had a chat initially when we were first doing this, so I'm more than happy to sit down and chat with you and Kieran if I can help in any way.
That'd be great. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely. Okay. Number 10 is the events report, and do we need to put together a new events working party as well? Okay. So Melissa is on holiday, I think, at the moment, so it is just a report again for noting. But we also need to look at the event terms of the event working party. We need to see if people want to be on it, and then we need to ratify the terms of reference. That's all what we need to do today. Is that what we need to do? Yes, please jump in.
Just in Melissa's stead, there's also in regard to the flagpole. So
just got to that bit, yeah.
Last year we looked at possibly getting a new flagpole, and it was kind of tabled. Our current flagpole isn't fit for use. We can't hang flags from it. We've been using the church. Melissa originally did some searching, got some quotes between £600 to £1,000 for a new flagpole that's also much easier to use and means we wouldn't need a cherry picker to clean it as well. So she kind of just wants to get some steer really, if you're happy for her to have delegated authority for spend up to, or if you want us to go back and get more quotes and bring them back. It's kind of how you want her to deal with that really, or if you again want to table it for the time being and leave it as is.
Having worked with Melissa on lots of different things, I think I would be happy to give her delegated authority to go and get a flagpole of up to £1,000. Yeah, if it could be less than that, great, but up to £1,000 is fine. I'll propose that. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Williams, all those in favour? Lovely, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, and just secondly, before you go on to your working party, sorry to interrupt. Slightly underneath that, there was another section. So we received a complaint email for our event that we hosted, and it went into the newspaper, and it's just moving on really. We've got VJ Day coming up. And Melissa just wanted to kind of steer really, which I mean could come from the working party if created this evening, on how you want to deal with that event and what you would like to do, and sort of looking at spend and that kind of thing, where do you want it to come from. So she would just like some assistance with that really, if you want to go along the same lines of what we've done or do something different. She would hopefully just like to have a conversation around that.
Just to check in, was your raised hand about this point? Yes, was your raised hand about this point or something like that? I'll come back to you then. Councillor Creek.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. So obviously I was at this event and I helped Melissa organise it.
Put the flag up.
Put the flag up and then down and then back up again. And so just go back a bit, we made contact, or the veterans made contact with Newquay Town Council via Melissa a couple of months ago and asked about VE Day. And Melissa and I had a conversation. We did advise, and I'm sure Melissa followed up on this, that we would be happy to offer the Hewers Hut and the torch that we now own from a number of torch lighting ceremonies that we've had over the last couple of years to the veterans for an evening lighting at the Hewers Hut. My understanding is that there was no response to that email, and in fact, so firstly, I just wanted to make the point that we absolutely did engage with the RBL, contrary to what the letter in the newspaper seemed to suggest. Secondly, unfortunately, the situation with the flagpole, which we've now rectified, meant that we couldn't have the VE Day 80th flag raising event out the front of Marcus Hill, but we opted for the next closest flagpole, which was just outside the church. I was present as the mayor. There were a number of members of personnel from RAF St Morgan, as is custom, as well as British Legion members. And the wind was against us that day, unfortunately. And as I was raising the flag on a little bit of a tricky pole, the flag did actually end up getting wrapped around the pole. Just to make the point in the public domain, the flag did not get ripped. Which was what was going around on social media and I think in the paper. We then lowered the flag and then I took it up again and it was all good, all fine. Yeah, we had an appropriate minute silence, as is the custom, and I felt that the event went very well. We then invited members of the military and assembled guests to join us afterwards for a reception in the chamber downstairs. So I felt really disappointed by the media coverage of this. I'm not sure what was attempting to be gained from that. I felt it was very, as someone with a grandfather who served in World War II, I felt it was a very respectful event and marked the moment appropriately. And then I've since had conversations up at RAF St Morgan on a recent visit about VJ Day with the British Legion, who are putting on an event at Nansledden that day. Unfortunately, I am not in town that week, but I understand the Deputy Mayor will be in attendance, just to give you a full and rounded picture of actually what had happened. And I want to thank Melissa for all of her efforts making the VE Day event happen. And I have advised Melissa to go back once again to the RBL and offer our assistance in anything that they might be planning for VJ Day, though clearly Newquay Town Council will have a presence in the Nansledden event, which I believe is at 5 p.m. of that evening.
Okay. All right, thank you, Councillor Creek. Councillor Jacobs.
Mine's not to do with the VE Day, so I can
okay.
Come in after.
Okay, we'll come back to that one then. Okay, I feel like that. Is there anything we need to do in terms of that complaint? Do we need to respond, or we're okay just to kind of note that one then? And it sounds like we did.
Yeah, it's been responded to.
It's been responded to. Okay, thank you. Okay, great. Thank you for the update. That was very useful. In terms of anything else for noting on the events, obviously Melissa has been a busy bee. There is lots of events that have happened to date, including collaborations with Newquay Bid. The Easter egg hunt was a massive success. There was a huge amount of the local community enjoying that event this year. We have the markets, but I think we might hear a little bit more about that. Empowering Newquay's Future was a big event that we were, as the Town Council, were very much a part of. We did fund a little bit of that activity as well out of the events budget. And other things that are happening, including actually the recent theatre production that came to the Killer Court, which was a free event for the general public, which was brought in by a local company, Groundswell. That's it. There's lots of things happening through the rest of the year as well, but we can talk about those in each of our meetings. Okay, so the Events Working Party. The Events Working Party is a kind of subcommittee from this committee, and it's made up of representatives from this committee that support Melissa in setting the annual budget for events throughout the year, so what the Town Council has responsibility for, but also what we can support in terms of external events that are being run by community organisations that we can partnership work with as well. There's been quite a shift over the last couple of years about how Melissa runs the events and how we are trying to work more collaboratively with community organisations in the town, but also getting Newquay Town Council's stamp on things as well. So it's it feels like quite a positive thing. So if we have anybody that wants to sit on that committee, I think what we decided is we're meeting the first Friday of every month, but obviously that is up for renewal depending on people's availability. But it's a nice committee, a nice subcommittee to be on, and it's quite exciting to get involved in events. Hi.
Hello. Hello.
Excellent. Was that two
Yes,
volunteers,
please.
3 volunteers?
No, it wasn't. It was more of a question on, I guess, the sort of working group versus subgroup, because my understanding of a working group is it's got a start and end point. But that's might be just my interpretation, so it's just having clarity on what's a subgroup and what's a
I was using those interchangeably, wasn't I?
I'm not sure. I was just wanting clarity because it's sort of nearer to.
So it's a working party. Joe, is there official terminology that we need to be using, or and just what are the kind of parameters that a working party works
I mean, I
within?
think you've explained the remit of the working party. I mean, within our council setting, we have task and finish working parties, but we also have working parties which are generally just ongoing. So it is, yeah, I see where there could be some confusion, but our working parties aren't always just task and finish groups. We do also have some which work alongside the Concrete Ways user group, and they kind of work alongside them and put any kind of recommendations to this council or the relevant committee. So yeah, the working party is essentially our term for it. We don't have a subcommittee structure, really.
My bad. Sorry, that was my fault for jumping around with those. It is a working party.
No, that's fine. So I guess in other sort of town councils, working parties can also include people who aren't elected councillors. So we do the same with ours as well. Yes. So it's basically we open it up to people who are interested in what events happen, and they're chaired by a councillor or by.
I think last time we had a rolling chair, so we were just enabling everybody to chair the meeting.
Yeah.
And I know that there are subgroups there are events groups there are groups of organisations that are working together on different events that are quite high profile that the town council is involved with. I know one has just reached out to Councillor Creek to ask for representation from the town council, which I was going to bring to this to see if someone wanted to sit on that that external working group for the Lantern Parade, which is happening again this November, which I know that that group would like the town council to be more involved with this year.
Can I say something? Sorry.
Sure.
I never know what to comment because I'm not official council, but what I was frustrated with before is we talk about partnership working now, and I absolutely agree. I should be part of the events committee. Every event that's happening now, normally it's involving bid town council, and you're absolutely right. I sit in on the Lantern Parade committee, and it's clearly viewed that we need somebody from town council to sit in on that committee too, because we need to do everything together now. We need to have everybody named. So yeah, if I would love to be on the events committee, because I think the original conversation was we talk about budgets. Let's be honest, we've all got budgets. We've just got to pull together and make things happen. So there's no confidentiality as far as I'm concerned. We just work together on events.
Councillor Martin.
Do I understand correctly that this working party is almost like a conduit for any exchange between other agencies, the town council, councillors themselves bringing forward ideas about what events might be possible, and that it's a coming together of all of those things, and then it can, and whether it makes decisions of its own or whether it comes back to this. And to be able to say, well, this seems to be like a great idea, or we thought about that but rejected it, and just doing some of the preliminary work before this this committee actually meets. Is that?
It's been doing an element of that, but it's very much in place to support Melissa, the event coordinator. So it's about the events that the town council has on our calendar that we put on, which includes the Easter celebrations, the sessions that happen on the Killercourt during the summer, Christmas, the Christmas light switch on, and then the New Year celebration. So there's a number of things that we do as a town council, and then as I said, over the last kind of year or so, we've been very much moving into what can the town council support in terms of other events that are happening, and working a lot more closely with BID. So it definitely can be all of the things that you've just said in terms of bringing in external organisations that are doing events that we can support and promote and work with a lot more collaboratively. So yes, it can be that. But then there's an element of decision making that happens, but most of it has to come back and be kind of ratified by this committee.
Yeah. Just adding to that. I'm sorry, I didn't put that on last time. We've got to be really careful as well, because I think when you get too many committees making too many decisions about events, they just don't happen.
Yeah.
So I think if we're saying there's an events committee that's got all those skills, so a very good example being the Lantern Parade. You know, we ran one last year from Trinancy. It was phenomenal. It needs a little bit more love this year. We need to talk about.
Finessing.
I mean, I've already got finessing. So we've already got talking to people about proper road closures and all these things. But what we can't do is to talk about it and then come back to another committee and talk about it more. We kind of almost need to be, you know, trusted to make the right decisions.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Creek.
Thank you. So I suppose what I would say is certainly for the new members, is the committee meetings and full council meetings tend to be very formal in their structure, and it's difficult to have a proper conversation and get into the operational detail of bits and pieces as is required for these events. And so so the working party, as Liz says, is very much to support and empower the officer who does a great job. Let's be really clear. It's not about micromanaging the officer, it's about offering our support and often, you know, expertise. You know, I know, for example, Councillor Wright's got a lot of expertise in running these sorts of events, and previously Councillor Saray. So, and I think Melissa, the officer, really values that. But it does allow a bit more of a free-flow conversation and a bit more collaboration than a formal committee meeting really allows for. Yeah. So it's ultimately, here's where the ultimate decision is made. But before that decision, it comes to here, it goes through the working party and a good natter is had about it, and work out all the bits and pieces and nuts and bolts of it, so that we don't spend sort of 2 hours here in a very formal setting talking about it, I guess, is probably how I would describe it badly, if I'm honest.
Okay. Councillor Williamson.
I was just wondering, from a kind of logistical perspective, you said they're once a month, at first Friday of every month. Do you know what time, and if we're allowed these days to have teams?
They were done in the morning, and that was just because it was convenient for those who were sitting on that as well. I think for working parties, teams is fine. We've had teams meetings, so yeah, that's fine.
I think face to face is better, but should it be teams or nothing?
Yeah. Great. Councillor Jacobs.
Yeah, so I guess on the ensuring that the sort of different stakeholders involved in events have a real stake in the meetings, looking at the terms of reference, it could be, at the moment, it sort of says external people will be invited on an ad hoc basis. There's no reason why a terms of reference for a working party can't, what's the word, formalise those kind of non-voting seats on that committee, to say there will always be a seat for the BID, the town team, and 5. You know, a terms of reference for a working party can say anything. So I do think, given what Mark said about the BID, you know, and I'm sure town team will feel the same, that it would be good to, or maybe not, but that they want a regular input into the big events that happen. And I'll kind of, I guess, alongside that being able to link into the strategic direction of the town in terms of tourism and how we get more people in. I think having those regular voices, but it depends if it's a sort of what would I say? Will it be a meeting that decides how many security people you have at an event, or will it be a meeting that says we need 7 pirate events because we've decided that pirates has to be the thing that's going to attract everyone to Newquay next year?
So it's a bit of both.
Okay.
It's a bit of both. I'd just like to, before we kind of move on, with the terms of reference, they're on the agenda. Are we having to approve these, or are they just there for noting?
No, they're just there to get to start to think about it. So that's the previous terms of reference, and now you can take it away for a month and scribble through it and make some amendments and
Great.
changes, recommend any changes to myself, and then we'll bring it back in July.
Lovely. I'd like to take the terms of reference to the new events working party so that we can thrash it out collectively to see if that's how we want to be working for the next year, and then we can bring it back then. Is that okay? Councillor Creek.
No, I was just going to say, whilst I sort of broadly agree with what Councillor Jacobs was just saying about the terms of references and external partners being on the working party, I suppose a word of caution here, and I think Mark would probably agree with me, is that because we deal with events all over Newquay, not just in the town centre, and Mark's remit is just in the town centre, that actually, with the greatest respect, I'm sure he does care, but from a work perspective, from a bid perspective, he probably doesn't care about events that we're holding at the skate park or potentially in Nansleden or St Column Minor or so. So I think rather than fixing firm membership for external bodies, what I would do is, ensure that if it's a town centre event, then we invite Mark to that meeting. I'm not sure that it needs to be every meeting that Mark attends if we're not talking about town centre events. I suppose that would be my build on that, just as and also you risk these things becoming huge working party meetings that end up being larger than committees. There's 7 people on this committee. We could end up with a working party easily of 12 people if we start inviting Blister Arts and Bid and Town Team, and then we invite Dickie's company, Groundswell, or whoever. And so all of a sudden these things, get quite large and cumbersome to deal with. And so as required is what I would say about membership.
Yeah, I think there's a conversation to be had about strategy and the strategic direction in which we go with this, as you've already said, in terms of tourism versus local community, all of that kind of stuff, and then we can go back to what next Tuesday's meeting is about this event, so it's very, very small.
I think that's what I maybe like seeing that's lacking. It's like, how did the strategic stakeholders of the town come together to work together on, this is where we're going, these are the big things that we decide collectively, because we could be the best councillors and the best officers in the world. We're not going to have all the brightest ideas in Newquay in the people who turn up at our committee meetings. And so I do think that even if people decide not to turn up to a meeting, by knowing that they've got a seat at the table, is it not for them to decide if it's important one to turn up to or not? But it's about how, I guess, and underneath everything that I'm saying, you'll see every meeting that I come to and everything that I do as a councillor, it's all going to be about how do we open up the council, how do we open up the work that we do, how do we really build collaboration and partnerships. And when people are invited in, sometimes they come and sometimes, it's like the public can come to this meeting today. Hello, you're all there in your droves. It's like somehow you have to be able to empower people to say you've got a real genuine seat at the table. So that's always going to be
got a stake in this.
But maybe that's for us to go away as kind of council members and to have our own sort of thinking about with the mayor about the direction of travel for the council over the next 4 years, because we're all really new and it's not necessarily anything. That's just what I think. Everyone else would be like, that's a horrendous idea.
Thanks, Councillor Jacobs. Louise.
It was just to tag on a little bit to Councillor Creek's point. We found that in last year that the events working party actually got too large, and we had to restrict membership just because it became that, unfortunately, we weren't able to continue, we weren't getting anywhere, so it became quite difficult. And I think there's some meetings that Melissa needs short, sharp answers to, because there are specific events that we do every year at certain times of the year, and they don't change. So there's more, I think she's open to new things, but the ones that we do religiously, and it's also, it's not something that somebody can come up and request money for an event. It doesn't quite work like that either, so she can't just hand out money. So it's just trying to clarify that with anybody that comes from an outside point of view. They can come with a great idea, but doesn't necessarily mean she can give you the money to do it. It doesn't quite work like that.
Yeah, thank you for that that clarity, Louise. Yeah, I think it's for the working party to go away and have a think about, and then splitting actually talking to Melissa as well would probably be useful. So, you know, we can thrash that out. Once Melissa's back off holiday, we'll pop in a meeting, and then we can have a look at what she feels she needs and how we can support her, and then we can talk about what we would like to do in order to enhance that working party and the events as a whole, and we can look at the strategy as well. Okay. Councillor Motta.
It sounds to me more than a working party, more is from a sort of governance, leadership, organigram point of view. It sounds to me more they are steering groups, more than a working party. Is maybe steering group actually the correct terminology? Party is like, instead steering group, it seems she needs support for specific project as well. And that to me sounds more linked to a steering group to support that project, steering group to that one, and not a working party, which is actually a quite big umbrella and big name as well, a party.
It's where we are having the party though, Marco.
Just an observation.
Thank you. That's something that we could consider at our first meeting. Thank you. Okay, number 11 is the Communication Officer's report. Just opening it. We have our maternity cover at the moment because our officer is on maternity leave, so congratulations to Sally. We have Molly, who has picked up the reins and yeah, is settling in. Yeah, she's...
Just to clarify, that's a new Molly, not the existing Molly.
Yes, a new Molly.
We've got double Molly.
We've got two Mollys. Two Mollys. Okay. So yeah, just having a quick look through the update. So obviously maternity leave, we've got regular Radio Newquay ads, which has been covering, and I did hear them talking about the opportunities for a town councillor, vacancies that we're trying to recruit for at the moment. They promoted the annual town meeting, and then the community grants, which are open again now. Is there a deadline for the community grants, sir?
23rd of June, I believe.
Oh, okay, right. Okay, so that's something that we can be shouting about on individual social media pages if we have them. Do we know if you've had any grant applications to date? One. Okay.
One so far, Chair.
Okay, so we definitely can be shouting about that opportunity then, and linking people through to the Town Council's website where they can find the grant application forms. Great stuff. And we are in the final stages of the Brand Style Guidelines project. Is there anything to update from that? Other than it's
not in
nearly
terms
done?
of an update on that, because I haven't been intimately involved. I've got
Okay.
two procedural things which I'd like committee to just approve if possible, but I'll leave the actual update to Louise in terms of the branding.
They're in the final stages now of just finalising the branding and just tweaking the final little things that Sally sort of picked up on or wanting to change, but we're almost there and ready to start using them.
Great, lovely. Will there be kind of an internal, this is what it all looks like, or are you just going to go and be all excited by it?
Well, I think there's options, there could be, but I think it's kind of just going to...
We're just going to launch?
Start using them.
Okay, lovely.
Across the board, yeah.
Will we need to update things like, I don't know, email signatures or anything like that, or they're set ourselves, aren't they? We don't have anything fancy in those. Maybe we could have something fancy in those. Great, okay. Joe, do you want to...
It might be, sorry to interrupt, it might just be the text that you use. That might be the only thing to update, depending on what text you use across the board. Okay. So it's not very exciting, but just to follow the guide, like the text that you're using in that, that might be the main thing.
Thank you. Joe?
Yeah, just a couple of procedural matters which the RFO has highlighted in terms of the spend. So just to rewind, so the budget was approved to be released from the Events and Comms earmarked reserve in the last financial year, but because the actual spend straddled financial years, the RFO has requested if you can make a reaffirmed commitment and a recommendation to full council to release the £3,000 again, but from this earmarked, this year's financial budget's earmarked reserve. So that's the first recommendation from her, as well as the second one is a recommendation to suspend our financial regulations to approve the 60% payment which was approved up front. And that was done because we were in a pre-election period, transitional period. We didn't want to lose momentum. It was approved by the RFO and the Town Clerk to proceed with the proceed with the advance payment, which is not normally what we do for goods and services. So there's two recommendations for your consideration. There's a suspension of financial regulations to retrospectively approve the payment in advance for 60%, and the recommendation to full council to release £3,000 from the Events and Comms earmark reserve in this financial year.
Any questions from this committee to the Deputy Clerk? No. Do you want me to separate them out? So we'll do, yeah. So the first one about earmark reserves, I will propose that is that taken to full council?
It is, yeah.
Okay, I propose to have a seconder. Councillor Martin, all those in favour? Lovely. And then the second one, which is a retrospective approval, I will propose that one, and I'll have a seconder. Yeah, Councillor Martin, all those in favour? Lovely.
Thank you, Chair.
Great stuff. Okay, number 12, come on to the...
Can I just, sorry.
Councillor Martin.
Sorry. In terms of comms and marketing strategy on Facebook and Instagram, can you remind me again? So the posts that we do are primarily Cornwall Council, Newquay Town Council matters, or they go also in the sort of social spectrum of events and activities and everything that is about Newquay as a town. So just to understand, because I understand, I don't have social network. I'm a little bit behind in this sort of things. I noticed we got a little bit of going down in views. I understand that there's been some sort of pre-election period rules, but potentially there's been a lot of social things happening in these 2 months. Just wondering what is the comm strategy on social media?
I can circulate for this committee and certainly new members. We do have a communication strategy. I don't have it to hand, but essentially it is to promote the town council's activities, events as primarily its focus. But I do believe our comms officer also promotes other activities, other groups, as and when on an ad hoc basis. So I think the primary focus is essentially portraying what we do as a council, because I think for a long time, for as long as I've been here, we've had struggled as an authority to stand out from Cornwall Council. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the biggest challenge that Sally has faced, trying to help the public understand what we actually do, as opposed to what Cornwall Council does. Because as you can imagine, people just assume that we do everything. So I think that's still an ongoing battle, I'll be honest. And I think it's still a need for us to still keep promoting what we do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'll hand over to Louise as direct line manager. Oh, comms officer.
Yeah, she definitely, as well as doing the basics of like promoting our meetings or anything that's happening, she will do any outside events or anything that gets shared from Cornwall Council that we can share as well. And she's also started to do more of a trying to get used, introducing the councillors, for instance. She did a specific topic where she invited councillors to come along, and she did like a takeover Tuesday. And she's done takeover Tuesdays for the Killercourt units as well. She's also advertised spaces at Mount Wise. The library tend to do their own social media themselves, but she supports them in any way that she can. And Melissa has her own events page, if that's helpful.
Thank you. Lovely. Okay, item number 12, the Newquay Bid Managers Report. Welcome back, Mark.
Thank you.
It's been a while that since you've been able to attend a meeting, so it's very nice that we can have you back.
Yeah, my Thursdays, unfortunately, were family evenings, but yes, I'm glad to be back. I'm I'm not going to read through the whole report. I kind of summarised at the beginning because it was the beginning of the new financial year for BID, and I had the AGM recently, which went extremely well. But put a lot of work in. I'm coming up to my 3rd year now in August. 3 years in the BID role. And I'm feeling very confident. We work very, very cohesively with Town Council now, as well as lots of other community groups within Newquay, Town Team included. We've achieved a lot. I'm not going to go through and break everything down, I think, but some of the highlights really for me are we've certainly cranked up on the events. I think working with Town Council, we've got a lot of external partners coming in now that are also adding to the events calendar. Surfskate Expo, obviously we've got the food festival coming in, not directly related to us, but I think what's happening is there's a catalyst for a build-up now of what's happening in Newquay, more and more things happening, which I'm very excited about. We accessed extremely good funding over the last 12 to 18 months, where we've managed to now, make the Newquay Big Markets a regular event, which 99% of the businesses welcome. They see it as an obvious, advantageous move for driving footfall, but also not just for the business footfall. Some of them are actually thinking outside the box, because actually it's curating more of a community. The town centre, a lot of people say it feels more family vibes. A lot of people come now that haven't been coming to the town centre. And I think one of the hardest things to do is to convince our locals sometimes to come back and enjoy our town centre. We know tourists come, but it's not just about that, it's about that all year round footfall. So apart from this one that we've just missed due to bad weather winds, we've been putting the markets out since March, which we've been really pleased about. But so yeah, lots of things happening, working alongside you guys as well. Lots of partnership working. Key things really, we're working a lot with the police now at the moment. We've just got a hotspot funding confirmed again for this year. Hopefully this weekend we will have confirmation that we can get the Rangers back on the high street, which work in association with the police, which is going to be really effective for us. We've had an extra £3,000 worth of PCC funding for additional shop watch radios, which we've now put out. A lot of them are going out to the beaches this summer, which we've got some very good, some good feedback and PR from. Just keeping our beaches safe as well as our town. So that's really, really positive. Like I said, so many things really working alongside and maintaining and growing Newquay. I think the key things for me, like I said, are just making sure that we're all working together. And I think we have a new, a real forward-thinking town now. I feel it's not just about the bid, but I think maybe I was a little pebble that kind of started things to start people working together. And even this most latest event, I think we all got together and we delivered a really, really strong recruitment event for the town. So yeah, I mean, unless anybody wants me to break down on anything in particular, there's rather a large list there, and I don't want to keep you all night.
Councillor Motter.
I have a couple of things.
Yes.
First, page 1, third bullet point, marketing. There is some numbers in brackets, 103, 215, 625. Todd, what does it mean?
So we have a PR company, Excess Energy, that they do all of our PR. So when it goes to national news, out to readerships for the magazines that we've been featured in, we do a lot of press trips. So this is potentially how many people they get in front of. That's a very big number. Obviously, they haven't gone around counting those people, but that's the potential reach for all the PR that we put out, and we showcased Newquay as a destination. And just to be clear, I think it was quite clear at a meeting we went to this week with Noah Law, we are, with the budgets that we've got through Visit Cornwall, they don't actually have funding anymore to do any of this external funding to bring press trips. We are still pushing press trips as a bid, so we're putting people into hotels. They're going into magazines, they're going into like the Dublin Times and all those sorts of things. So this is the potential reach that we have managed to achieve. Like I said, it may not be at that level, but that's as high as we can push that reach.
And another point, then I'll pass to you.
Yeah.
The Newquay Safe Space.
Yeah.
What happened to that project?
Yeah.
Meaning there was all an excitement. We were all so committed to be part, to be the first. And I remember everyone was very, and but now I haven't heard anything, and so I was wondering if it happened, or it's actually no, or yes, but it's slow uptake, and so a little bit of history of that would be very good.
I mean, this was originally launched via Newquay Beach Hotel because they were doing their own version of the safe spaces, and then they approached us about continuing it, and we had Newquay Town Council involved and the police were involved. So we initially launched about 16 different businesses that had training, had all the focus around being safe spaces. We had all the QR codes made up. So if you're in the town, you do a QR code, it tells you where your nearest safe space is, including the library and Visit Newquay. And then we got to a point where funding, as usual. So we launched it with 16. The police, we had some PCC funding initially to launch it, but at the minute it has gone onto a back burner, if I'm really honest with you. We were also finding that a lot of external businesses like Sainsbury's and people like that also had their own built-in safe space, program. So my worry is it was going to be a big launch, and then all of a sudden that would be it. And unfortunately, at the minute, that's what's happened. So I'm not saying we're not going to revisit it. It is on the agenda, but at the minute, those original 16 are what we've currently got.
What was it? Safe spaces? I don't know.
Yeah, so safe spaces were basically a joint town approach. Ideally 24 hours. So we've got hotels like the Headland and the Great Western that were going to be for anybody. So if you were out for an evening and you felt you were being followed, or if you'd lost your mobile phone, there would be opportunities to be aware of to go into safe space highlighted places in Newquay Town Centre so that we could support you. So, for instance, Newquay Beach Hotel, come in, phone your mum, you're being followed, we'll phone the police, a cup of tea, those sorts of things. And it was about having from Fistral Beach right the way through to pretty much the train station, right the way through the town centre, having a place to go if you felt you were at risk. Whoever was at risk at any age. But it is one of those things that, it's stagnated for now. I'm not saying it's going to go away, because at the minute we're focusing on an umbrella approach. So we're obviously working with the additional radios. We've currently got the DISC app that Newquay Bid run. So we've got 192 users for DISC now, which is our Shopwatch app. That's used day and night to report any antisocial behaviour. So there are several levels to keeping Newquay safe, and that was part of it, which is, it's not going where I want it to go fast enough.
Sorry, just I didn't fully understand. The 16 that were identified are still part of the project. So there is actually a project, not at the big scale that we were hoping for, but there's still a Newquay Safe Space running as originally we wanted to.
Correct.
Limited 16 numbers, but still there.
We only had
and the app is still available?
Absolutely.
The app,
the app's still available.
What's the name of the app?
So it's Newquay Safe Spaces.
Newquay Safe Space. Okay.
I had three things, but I can remember two at the moment. First of all, the event at the Orchard was exceptional, so bravo and well done, everybody who was involved with that. I have a working desk at the Orchard, and I was lucky enough to be there that day, and the buzz and the enthusiasm from the kids was, and not just the kids, but the people who were having the stands themselves, was excellent. I saw the council team, and that was wonderful as well. So just well done. When's the next one? Secondly, do you do international? I know you said Dublin, technically international, but do you do international outreach as well as Britain?
So this is new, actually. I'm going to go to the board with this, and we can talk about the board in a minute, but we are finding there's a bit of a pattern with Germany, still very high level of visitors due to the programs they have, but also the American market since the G7, but also since there's a direct route coming in from Dublin now. So we are currently having a conversation with Excess Energy, and we're going to put a package together, which I'm going to go to the board with. Now, what we have realised is if we just bring the American market into Newquay, it's quite a way to travel for them just to stay in one location. So the plan is we're going to try and join up with Falmouth Bid, so we almost do a split, you know, working.
Centre thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
so they'll do 2 or 3 days in Falmouth, and then they can do 2 or 3 days in Newquay. Obviously, they'd be flying in via Newquay Airport. So this is something we're really, really interested in, and I think you're absolutely right. I think we need to go further afield now, and so we're literally just, I'm just pulling the final details together to go to the board on that one for potential sign-off. Yeah. Okay.
So we attended a tourism summit that was hosted by our local MP Noah Law on Friday. There was several of us in attendance, but that was a really interesting couple of hours that we had. I think Noah went away pleasantly surprised with the feedback that he got from the town, because he actually said he was coming expecting people just to complain at him, and actually what he got was a really rich conversation from, it was funny how the tables kind of segmented themselves off, and how each of the different tables was bringing different challenges, but I think as a whole he went away with a really clear picture of us as a town that work within the kind of tourism sector, what we would like to see more of, what we would like from central government. You know, Newquay's quite a strategic place on there, looking at feeding into the national agenda in terms of visitor number increases, and I think it was quite an important opportunity for everyone was there to really feed back about what we need as a town in order to increase footfall, and yeah, just what a special place we are to live and be. Has anybody else got anything they wanted to feed back on that? Because I think it's quite important in terms of what Mark might be doing in terms of international outreach and where we all can feed into that strategy and all of that kind of stuff. So Councillor Martin and then Councillor Jacobs.
To add into that about the Friday summit, that I felt, and I think it was said at the time, it's very much the start of the process. Yeah. And that it felt quite exciting to be part of it, and there were things that, I mean, we were talking earlier on today about how, again, inclusive it can be, and that there were people who are obviously not there who should have been there, sure, yeah, not least tourists themselves even. But you know, people from the town who are involved in the industry, but actually people from the town who are not involved in the industry. So that conversation is going to go on, and I think I was hearing that we'll do this again in 6 months' time. It's been so useful to everybody who was there, and it felt like a good thing to be part of.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor.
Yeah, I was going to bring it up in any other business actually, and I think it links to my earlier point about the strategic direction for tourism in Newquay, and who's really holding that, and I guess it's been held in different places, Visit Newquay, the bid, and what was really good about that meeting is that it brought so many different stakeholders together, and the sense was that that actually by coming together, envisioning like we're going to achieve a lot, even just through that. Like some of the ask was obviously about, you know, central government, and they've got this plan for 50 million tourists, sort of international tourists. How do we make sure that Newquay really benefits from that? And I'm guessing the way national governments work, that there may be grants coming down the line, who knows, but more than that, that might be 2-3 years. I was keen to see, well, what could we do as a town council to continue the energy that was kind of created in that room, in that, okay, if the MP's office can fund something once a year, can we push him to try and get something every 6 months? Because obviously there's a cost to that, because it's space and it's bringing people and some capacity to do that. But what can we do from this committee to base it? We've got an events working group, but what I can't find in sort of the different structures at the moment is this strategic tourism group for Newquay, and does that exist somewhere that I don't know of? Because people in the room didn't seem to say that it exists. They said this is the first time a lot of these tourism businesses have got together. There is no tourism forum, basically. So could it be something that we can actually either set up ourselves in partnership with BID and the town team and some of the key stakeholders to say, well, actually there is an appetite, even if we came together once a quarter, to get those, but for it to be more inclusive and make sure, because, you know, the surfing organisations are there and the water sports and the people, it's not just about the events, it's about what was really interesting is sort of getting a sense of where the direction's going in terms of place management and destination sort of vision, that as we've come to the end of the kind of, not the end of, there was a long time where people were coming to the town for the hen parties and the get drunk and the stag do's, and that was really well managed in terms of like, this isn't Newquay's future, but then it's like, what's replacing that? And it's like, we knew what we didn't want, but do we really know? Are we all sure? Like, have we all got that vision of what we do want? And there was mention of like spa days, the kind of the health and well-being tourism, but all those basic. That's just an example of some great ideas that came out of people being in the room for 2 hours together.
Yeah, I did reiterate to the group that these are a public meeting and that people are more than welcome to join us, and that our meeting runs on the third Tuesday of every month, and that we will I said if we get through this meeting, because this is the first meeting of our new committee, then we'll be able to maybe put some of this on the agenda for next time and invite some specific people in to come and talk about the things that came out of that summit and how we move that forward with that buy-in from people that were there, so that we do have that forum, because I'm not aware that we have any kind of forum for tourist organisations to engage or to think about the strategy. I know this is community and tourism, but it feels like it's been a long time since we've done anything specifically tourism focused. Is that, and I mean, and I'm saying that as a town council for 3 years, but I mean before that as a resident who has worked in other things like that, it doesn't feel like there's been a specific focus for a while. Councillor Creek.
Hi, how are we doing?
We've been quiet for ages.
Yeah, no, it's unusual for me to be that quiet for that long. I mean, Visit Cornwall clearly do lots of collaborative working around the strategic direction of tourism more widely in Cornwall, you know, and I know that we're very much well linked in with them from the Visit Newquay perspective, but it's certainly a point and certainly something that is picked up within the corporate plan, and I would recommend that we all go back and have a look at the key point indicators that were driven from that and explore whether, there's anything that you want to add to that. The actual point that I wanted to make was just back to the bid report. It was just to thank Mark for his brilliant work over the last 3 years. We've worked so collaboratively together over the last 3 years after what was a tricky period for BID, I think it's fair to say. And I've really enjoyed working with you over the last year or so. And I know that we had a walk round. I'm going to make those regular monthly walk rounds between Mark and I. For members of the public that want to flag us down and drag us into their shop and ask us questions, please do let us know. We're here for it, basically. And to say that the international tourism piece that you were talking about with regards to Falmouth and Newquay, I actually think there's a really good opportunity there between probably Falmouth, Newquay, Truro and St Ives. I'm certainly very well linked into those 4 locations, politically and personally, and I'd be really interested to explore that with you and your counterparts in those locations, as well as probably representatives of those councils, and probably Cornwall Council. I suppose I have to say that now. But yeah, so let's definitely pick that up and explore what that might look like, because I'm really keen for there to be some stronger work in between some of the town councils, particularly in Cornwall, because as I said before many times, together we are much stronger than our individual parts actually, and there's so much synergy, particularly between those 4, in terms of Newquay, Truro, Falmouth and St Ives. So yeah, really keen to pick that up with you, Mark. Thank you, and thank you for everything you do, and please vote for Mark this year.
Yeah, so actually that leaves me well on. So yeah, and agreed. We've got very strong bid teams also within those locations, so that would be really positive. Yeah, so just two things. Yes, we are going for renewal this year. Obviously, bids run on a 5-year turnaround. I'm hoping that we as businesses in the Newquay, in the bid district, understand and can see what we're now doing and what we're achieving as a collaborative group, but as a bid. So I'm hoping that will be quite clear. We've currently got consultation documents going out, so businesses can they've got letters hitting down over the next 2 days, and then they will have QR codes and they'll be able to talk about what they're looking at for the next 5-year term. So it's very much business led where we're going to be going. But fingers crossed. But I'm going to keep working hard, and hopefully I'll get another 5 years to continue doing that. And also, just last but not least, our last representative from Newquay Town Council is no longer on Newquay Town Council. So if I can just put that into this month's minutes, that we'd like obviously somebody from this group to join the bid board as a Newquay Town Council representative.
Would you mind just sharing with those present what that commitment might be?
So, as a representative of Newquay Town Council being on the bid board, we have every 6 weeks we have a meeting. It's normally about an hour and a half to 2 hours, and it's predominantly at the Headland at the minute, and it's normally on a Thursday. We mainly Wednesdays or Thursdays, mainly Thursdays at the minute, 11 till 1:30. 11 till 1:30 at the latest. Like I said, and it mainly is everybody turns up. There's currently 8 on the board, and then I'll just give my manager's report. We'll discuss any proposals, any new changes. Every now and then I'll send out an email to you just to say, look, this is what my proposal is for the zombie crawl this year, and we'll look at the numbers and we'll kind of agree, and then there'll be a vote involving you guys on email. But it's not a huge role, but it also means that we've got obviously clarity working with Town Council on everything we do.
Thank you, Mark. Councillor Jacobs.
Yeah, I've just been really impressed. Like since living in Newquay, I've just been so impressed at the bid. Like I've been in other areas and seen other bids, and I do think we've got a really brilliant one. And I think that and actually a brilliant town council that in some ways really kind of works alongside. And I think that's one of the unique things of it that just makes it so brilliant. And having Mark, so I would be very happy to be the representative on the bid, and I've been on sort of similar. Well, I was on a town team that eventually morphed into. We didn't have a bid at the time, so yeah, I'd be very happy to do that.
Thank you, Councillor Jacobs. Councillor Motter.
I'm a little bit in the show. A couple of things. Yeah, a couple of things.
You're going to have to sit there next time. This is where you're tradition.
One is from a comms and point of view, if maybe we should put another advert or whatever is on social media around the Newquay Safer Spaces again. Just a reminder to people, potentially, that will be good. And I know Councillor Drew and Mayor Drew, you met our twin town Dinard, colleagues, not long ago, and was wondering if you were able to share a couple of moments from that meeting, and from a comms point of view, from actually a sort of what is the link and how we can advertise also Newquay in Dinard or in that area of Brittany, considering our twin yeah, thank you.
Do you want me to do this now, or we do this at the end with any other business?
I'm remiss that there isn't any other business on the agenda, so if it might be worth picking this up under the comms item, Chair, if
okay.
I'm happy to jump back into comms.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, so I was, albeit because of the pre-election period, and clearly no one knows what's going to happen post-elections, it was tricky to arrange. But we have a brilliant Twinning Association committee here in Newquay who maintain the relationship with our twinned town of Dinard in Brittany, in France, and we've been twinned with Dinard. This will be the 40th year, actually, of our twinning with Dinard. And you'll note that we have the Dinard Garden by the Griffin pub that is named after the twinning. Anyway, so the association have largely taken control of the twinning relationship between our two towns over the last few years. As I understand it, and this goes way back before my time, probably a lack of political will from the town council is probably how it was described to me. Maybe that's an unfair representation of the previous administrations of the town council, but certainly the committee seemed to suggest that to me. They planned this event for the 40th anniversary of the twinning, and we had a delegation from Dinard come over to Newquay. In fact, the Newquay Town Council did give some funds in a recent meeting a few months ago, didn't they, to support the event. But clearly, it was a few days after the election, and I got the call from the association saying, it's this weekend, can you come? So I was only too pleased to be able to attend the drinks reception on the Friday evening at the ocean side. I want to call it the Carnmarth, but it's the ocean side, and it was a wonderful group. And we had representatives of the council of I assume it's the town council of Dinard. Unfortunately, the mayor was unable to attend on this occasion, and the president of the Lord Russell Association, I think I've said that right, which is their version of our Twinning Association committee, set up presumably by Lord Russell back in the day, couldn't attend because of ill health, but I have since written to them both. In fact, the letters are in there ready for me to sign. But yeah, so we had a delegation in Newquay for the weekend. They also went to Falmouth. They took a boat trip to Malpas. They went to Lanhydrock Estate, had lunch there. They had lunch at the Alverton. And then on the Sunday evening, we had a dinner, an informal dinner at the Porthvior Hotel, which I attended along with Councillor Brooke and his wife, who are both French citizens, so we're very keen to attend. And I have to say, it was a wonderful weekend of sharing stories and kinship and my conversations. Though my French is dreadful, thankfully Councillor Brooks is much better. My conversations with the representative of Dinard Town Council were very positive, and in fact we have expressed a keenness to reinvigorate that twinning on what is the 40th anniversary of the signing of the charter of our two twin towns next year. So, so my understanding is that a delegation from Newquay will likely be invited to Dinard, and we're just working out the detail of that to sort of celebrate the 40th anniversary of the signing of the charter, and of, reinvigorate and put our arms across the ocean to our friends and neighbours in our in France. So yeah, really important weekend, and a huge thank you to the Twinning Association of Newquay. I actually attended their meeting on Monday with Councillor Brooke, who is now going to be our representative from the town council on that committee. And we look forward to working with them much closer over the next coming years than maybe we have over the last few. Yeah, I'm happy to take questions.
I have a comment and a question,
Please.
if I remember. The comment is, thank you very much for picking up the mantle on that, because I think it was under, well, it just wasn't really seen. And I remember, I think, and someone will tell me if I'm wrong, at the very difficult conversations we were having about the budget, there was a line on the budget that said how much it actually costs to kind of maintain that twinning officialdom. And it was discussed whether we should remove the twinning agreement. And clearly we didn't. And so I think that's a great thing. But and I'm delighted that they love our town, so they should. But equally, kind of, what is the longer term relationship plan with them? Because yeah, it's one thing to go for some nice dinners and talk a bit of French and stuff. Je parle un peu de français, hein? Donc je veux aller la prochaine fois. But that means I want to go next time in a really bad French. But what is the point of it? Because you drive through towns, you see this place is twinned with wherever. But what does it actually bring to the town in a broader perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. And we certainly had those conversations. We have already picked up a conversation around the opportunity for sort of cultural exchange for the youth of Newquay. And certainly there's some interest in Newquay, part of the Youth Newquay Football Club, working with the Youth Football Club of Dinard to do some sharing and some sort of, sort of matches either side of the channel, I guess. So certainly that. I was having a conversation with one of their kind of tourism people over that weekend, as well as someone who deals with all the real estate in the town, and lots of opportunities for cultural exchange. I think to start with, it would be a case of reinvigorating that relationship. I do think that there probably is a commitment from the town council that is currently lacking. Let's say that, and maybe I've been unfair to previous administrations. Maybe COVID had an impact, and it just fell by the wayside. But certainly, these things cost money, but there is benefit. And we did talk about cultural exchanges in terms of French markets coming to Newquay, Newquay markets going to France. So I think there's lots of opportunities. Clearly, it was a few conversations, as you say, over dinner and over drinks, and it was all a bit last minute from my perspective. No one's fault, but of course, the joys of politics and timing of these things just happen to be. But no, I was really pleased, and I had a lovely letter from the mayor of Dinard, which his councillor read out on the evening dinner. He also called me Councillor Drew, Councillor Motta, which I find quite endearing. It was really nice, and I'm genuinely excited about the opportunities that it could bring, particularly for our younger people, particularly since the awful B word, and I just reiterated how passionate we were about, sort of reaching out across the ocean to them and making sure that the link was strong, and that also not just because I'm interested as the current mayor, but how we make sure that any future mayors are fully engaged in that process, almost whether they want to be or not, to be honest, because I think, it is so important and it can't just be left to sort of fall by the wayside. Councillor Martin, did you have a question?
Sorry, can I just...
Yeah, sorry, go on.
That sounds very good. And I think, bringing the youth in and maybe conversations with the French departments at Tretheris and Treviglas and get them involved if there are any exchanges, and other things could be really a positive thing, especially, to give the kids, kind of going back to that event that you had at the Orchard about expanding minds and expanding opportunities, and what's the point in learning the second language? It's actually loads of benefits of it. So really like that. Thank you.
And just before I go to Councillor Martin, I suppose the other thing what I haven't said, and I'll happily say in the public domain, is, and it goes back to my previous point, is I felt really uncomfortable on the I think it was this Friday night when I'd said to the association, what's the plan for the weekend? And they explained what the plan was. A lot of it was outside of Newquay, and that's fine. They, obviously you want to see the whole of Cornwall. But my question was, and then what are they doing Monday? Well, they're going to get on a coach Monday morning. They're going to drive to Plymouth, spend the day in Plymouth, and then they're going to get on a boat. And I just said, it's such a huge missed opportunity, because actually I tried to arrange it on the Friday night with various texts to various people, but they had their schedule set and it wasn't going to work. But what we could have done is taken them to the Dinard Garden, and which is looked after by Newquay and Bloom, who do a great job. And I was messaging with the chair of Newquay and Bloom that evening, trying to find out, was it in good order. You know, could I take these people there on Monday? And the other thing, just hosting them for a reception in the chamber would have been a really nice gesture and something that wouldn't have cost the public any money, but would have been a really lovely thing to do with our visiting dignitaries. And I felt, if I'm honest, embarrassed that we hadn't had more to do with the whole thing, and actually it was just left to this wonderful group that, though they are with very little interest, it would seem, from any of us, you know, though clearly we do have some interest. So yeah, Councillor Martin, I'm conscious I've spent up lots of time talking, so did you have a question on that?
Well, just to add into it really, on the welcome signs to Newquay that we've been talking about, as you said, very often twinned with, and it would be quite a nice thing to do, and it would actually make a commitment, it would highlight, so Newquay people, let alone anybody else, that actually there is this thing. 40th anniversary sounds like a real good opportunity to do something bigger and more involving. I was also thinking about the fishing industry, and my understanding is...
That's a tricky subject with the French, I understand.
Exactly. And my understanding is that Newquay used to fish, I don't know if it still does, spider crabs. And we don't eat spider crabs, but the French love spider crabs. And I don't eat crab at all, but that's another thing. But how, you know, is there any mileage really in thinking about encouraging the fishing industry in Newquay to be part of this, even if it's that conversation of you keep out of our waters, but actually these are people who want to come to our town and maybe want us to go to their town, and maybe there is something there on a sort of political, diplomatic place that we could make a contribution. And
it's all Celtic at the end of the day.
Well, yes, us, you know, coming from Wales, of course. I think the other thing about how we get young people involved in any of these things, I'm desperately looking up and I can't find it, but Councillor Gillian Trumble's son, Alex, runs a company, and unfortunately he was missed off the list for Friday somehow, I don't know. Anyway, he runs a company here in Newquay where people come from all over Europe particularly, and they do language classes and then do surfing and use the facilities and all of that. And just think, you've been involved, you're nodding.
Yes.
Babel fish.
That's it.
Italian countries.
And how that might be used and expanded and to actually feel that when dignitaries come, they might not want to get into their wetsuits, but they might love to get into their wetsuits. Just to broaden it out, as well as all the, you know, offer them good hospitality. We've got fabulous places, you know, so I think there's a lot of mileage in that.
No, absolutely. Though the fishing conversation may be a level of diplomacy that might even challenge me. But you know, happy to. Happy to explore that though. So I think there's lots of opportunities, and just very quickly around the youth, I'm conscious of time. I was chatting to the Cornwall Association of Twinning Towns, I think that's what they're called, and they actually have funding available, grants available to help young people go and do that kind of exchange visits. So it was a conversation I was going to pick up with Councillor Wright, and I know that we're going to get into some of the schools at some point in the very near future.
Just need to find a date.
And we can certainly talk to the language departments in those schools about that. But yeah, no, it's a brilliant visit. And I love your idea about having the twin town on the signs. Another reason why we should back away from the idea of those signs, I think. Anyway, I'll hand back to Councillor Wright. It's her meeting.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, very conscious of time, so I'd like to move on to item number 13, which is the town team report. So welcome, Shirley. Thank you.
Okay. I'm not going to go through any of this in any great detail. Just to say, the town team setup was something that came out of when Cornwall had won the 4 town deals. St Austell and Newquay missed out, although there were 6 proposals put in. Immediately following that, Cornwall Council decided that it wanted all of the towns across Cornwall to be prepared, and so the town council, Newquay Town Council, then got involved and set up the town team. So the town team doesn't get involved in events or day-to-day workings within Newquay. It is a placemaking partner for the council, and it can work with BID or any other business on any other project. Newquay Town Council hold on money, and that is why obviously it sits within this committee, and why Liz would automatically get a voting seat on the town team. You can delegate that if you want. And then we need 2 appointed members within this committee that we can come to whenever we need to make fast decisions about money allocation on projects. So the overall project is basically agreed by everybody, and then within that, as each individual component part needs signing off for Anne. So it's 2 members of this committee, preferably not the one that can come to the meetings, purely and solely so there's no conflict of interest. The meetings are fairly open. We've a good relationship with a lot of Cornwall officers now, so they will pop in transport and people like that. So you've got the membership on page 2 or 3, whichever, depending on how you've printed it. There's 8 lay members and elected and organisational members, so that's 16 in total that are voting members, but there's usually another 10, 15 people who will actually come to some of the meetings. We got 133,000 as the first lot of money that we actually got. You can see what that was spent on. These have disappeared, Louise. It goes on your website. Our town team link now goes to a memo from 2021, so we need to get these put back. But if you go onto the town team link, once it's been corrected, you can see all of the work that got done with that 133,000 using Pride and Partners. That came out with 6 main projects, but there's a page 32 in there with about another 100 projects on it. And you can see what the town team have done with the rest of the Vitality funding. We helped the Climate Action Group set up. We're running conservation area work, which is just coming to write-up stage now. 3 time trials for the TIC, Ganol Chance Flood Forum, and we also have taken over the HUC footfall data figures from Experience Newquay. Without the council having done this and set up the town team, we wouldn't have got Experience Newquay here. So we got Experience Newquay. One of the projects is the BID and markets. That came out of this work as well. We then got Town Accelerator Fund money, and we got Town Delivery Fund money. All of that money's been spent in the Town Beach Triangle, and as we speak, they're putting new seats in Forestry Car Park, and doing work in both the Ocean and Beach Hill Gardens. So I've also just noted down for you what we're currently working on, because although we've allocated all the money, we still have projects that we are finishing off, and then other things that we keep thinking about. So we sort of cross everything that's going on in town, but from a place-making point of view. Yeah. That's me then.
Thank you, Shirley, and thank you for all the hard work that you and the town team do. You know, it's amazing to see everything as it kind of materialises and gets rolled out, and you know, those small things like the benches and all of that are a big thing for people. You know, they really appreciate stuff like that, but also the bigger things that you've had an impact on, like getting Experience Newquay here. Yeah, we really appreciate all of the stuff that you do, so thank you very much. Anybody got anything that they would like to add, or any questions they've got for Shirley?
Just, if I may, having just seen this for the first time, the thinking about, and I started putting asterisks by things, and then thought, actually, I want to put asterisks by all of it, because it's all good news and good stuff, and things that are exciting and valuable and very purposeful somehow. So I'm delighted to read it and hear it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. We just keep trying to push all the things that everybody mentions and wants done. Every now and again we stick our hand up and go, what's happening with this, please?
Yeah.
I think, well, you just used the phrase placemaking then, and that came up quite a lot actually at the tourism summit as well, about making Newquay the best it can be for the people that live here. And then once, you know, everybody feels happy in being a resident here, that kind of feeling will then grow and build, and will be kind of amplified to then want to make people come here even more. So I think that placemaking piece of work is really important, that, you know, the town team are doing, that Newquay Town Council can be more involved with, and then we can be then bringing in the other stakeholders in the town to make that happen. So
very briefly, I can't remember her name, but one of the lecturers at Exeter University has done a lot of work on place, and did a huge survey, no, more than that, on Penzance some years ago. But there may be some mileage in there about getting students involved or something. I'll look.
it was Natalie, yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk to Natalie and
No.
tell you about it.
Right, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Motter.
Yeah, sorry, just another acronymus that how to sell Newquay heritage as a USP. What stands for USP?
Unique selling point.
Sorry?
Unique selling point.
Okay, thank you.
Like you, unique.
Councillor Jacobs.
Yeah, it was great. I really liked the thinking about stuff as well, particularly on the heritage. And I think when we're thinking about that offer to the international market, and why do Americans come to Britain? They can go to California for surfing and nice beaches, but they can't come for 6,000 years of history. So you did mention at the tourism event on Friday about some possible funding through Cornwall Council, but is that, and what's happening with that, and what was that going to be for, and is it going to be possible in the time frame?
We will put applications in through TRIP.
TRIP's what's TRIP stand for?
Town Regeneration Improvement Plan, I think it is. I think the Town Council putting in a couple, Bidder putting in a couple. So
right. So they all go. Does anyone know anything just about that? Like, just for us who are sort of newer to this world, what is that funding, and is it quite often lots of individuals that put in separately, and do people ever put in together? Or?
yeah, there's two lots of funding, and this is the back end of the fourth year of shared prosperity funding. Shared prosperity funding will go out to everybody, businesses and councils and people like that can all apply. Town Accelerated, Town Development, Town Vitality funding was actually a decision within Cornwall Council to allocate this money to the towns. So the 16 towns, it's normally 12 because they don't allow the 4 that have got the town deals to apply. So you have to do a little bit of work to get it. Well, effectively you have to say, we want it. the town council's prepared to hold the money and do the admin, etc., and then you get it, and then you start from there working on what you're going to do with it and how you're going to spread it out around town.
Councillor Creek.
I'll forward you a press release. The trip program is actually open today. So I'll just send you a press release. It's got all the details in it. I'll forward it around to everyone. I've only received it this afternoon at 4:45 myself. So I did have a conversation with an officer there earlier on about it, but you probably know more about it than I at this stage, Shirley. But it might well be useful for context. So I'll share that round for everyone. But really interested to hear what we're looking to bid for on that particular round of funding. Perfect, thanks, Shirley.
And do we, how do we, as sort of, I guess, council officers, if we spot an opportunity, how would we then, I'm giving the, because I'm guessing that some of these have like a 3-week turnaround of like, you know, here's a press release, there's some money, you've got 3 weeks to spend it. Do we have any ability to kind of go, oh, we've got this fantastic, sorry to say pirate festival, but you know, something that we've been working on as this committee, what's the process of an idea? We've got an idea, and then how would we work with the council on that? What does it look like in action? Like,
so it really depends, doesn't it, on the kind of activity that you're looking at. Some activity can just be done in consultation. So, for example, I'm working with our grants officer. So we have a grants officer at the town council. He has been here for over a year, I think, maybe nearly coming up to a year. So his kind of role is to look for external funding opportunities for the council. So he's been working with the library to look at the Arts Council one. I'm currently working with him on a bid to the SIL funding for Cornwall Council for looking at feasibility studies for the youth centre. But that's, we're working in partnership, and me as a town councillor and him as the grants officer, just to kind of work up what that might look like. But there's he's also working with external organisations in the town to look at what opportunities there are for us as a town council to work with external organisations as well. So it really depends on the kind of the context of the opportunity that you found as to whether it's something that you bring to this committee, or you bring to the working party, or you take to Councillor Creek, or you take to the officers. It really depends, and I think there's not a hard and fast rule with all of that. It really depends on what it is, who it involves, how much role the town council will be playing in that, whether the town council can actually apply for it, because there's lots of limitations and restrictions on, as you will know, on what town councils can apply for anyway. So I think that's just to see what it is and bring it to us. Joe, you know, Andy, we just have to see. I think that's probably the best way to describe that, because there isn't a one way of doing it. It will depend on what it is. Quite flexible.
Because I have an idea, which I think is amazing. I won't share right now because you probably won't.
Can I just propose that we might have to extend for 15 minutes, maybe? It might not take that, but just... I'll propose that. Can I have a seconder? Thank you. All those in favour? Fabulous. 9:15, done.
So would I go to you and just say, I have this idea. Have you already had it? Would you dismiss it?
Me?
Yeah.
I would suggest that you go to Kieran.
Okay, to Kieran.
If it's a grant application that you want.
Is it a project, or is it a grant you've seen that he should apply for?
At the moment, it's a concept in my head.
It's a seed of an idea.
Yes.
I think bringing it to committee to flesh out.
Okay.
And then we can see where it would sit, if it's something that the town council could take forward, if they could apply for it, what their role would be, or whether it was something that they could support already. You know, we have to flesh out the idea, and then we can see where it sits.
Okay, we'll chat later.
Great stuff.
Yeah, okay. Just say trip funding is the 30th of June, close date, and you have to fund 25%.
So yes, 3-week turnarounds.
So whatever your projects are, they're offering you up to £500,000, but you've got 120,000.
How much match do you need?
Yeah, to have 100 grand.
You could have a
And
100
all
grand
your
match.
planning commissions in place.
What is it, capital?
Capital land revenue. There's a bit of
Capital land
revenue,
revenue,
but not
okay.
huge amount.
Okay. Any other questions for Shirley? No. Okay. We can come back to you about representatives for the town team soon. Is that okay?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
We will sort that out.
I will send the first invite to you,
Okay.
and then you can.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
In lieu of there not being any other business on the, well, we'll do date of next meeting, item 14.
It's 8th of July.
Can you do that, thanks?
Yeah.
And then. Okay, noted. Thank you for your apologies. In lieu of there being any other business, shall I offer it to the committee? Any other business? Any other business? Councillor Jacobs.
It was just on the actual structure of the agenda, and I just really felt for the town team and the bid representatives that they might have loved every part of the meeting. I mean, maybe they did actually, but
why wouldn't they?
There's a few things on the report. I just wondered if, like, is that because each officer speaks to those things, and is it always the same? Is it always like CCTV first, and does that can that change?
It does. When Charity is here, she has young children, so she goes first, and then she does leave. I was actually going to ask Joe whether you would want to stay for all of this because you love it in your heart of hearts, or whether actually after you've done your bit, you would like to go home. Don't feel obliged to stay. Obviously, this is thrilling for you, but if you wanted to leave after that, is there a formal requirement for managers to stay or officers to stay? Apart from you two, well, you two have to stay. Okay, so yeah, yes, that is the formal kind of layout of how we do that, but most people like Mark Scarpa when they're done. So if there's no formal requirement for people to stay, I would be happy for officers to leave once they've done their bit, unless they really want to stay.
You can also propose to move it up as well, if you wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
For any reason, so that can be done. So
Yeah.
that was what you were trying to ask.
Yeah, maybe just to mix it about. If we always have a standing agenda item of this, you know, those where we have external people coming to the meeting, it might be something that we could consider just to, because I'm, you know, thinking families and people who.
Yes. Yeah. We can definitely look at that. Any other business, Councillor Martin?
Point of information, really, I suppose. Frances is saying she's going to be in a bonnet about something that you want to discuss. I have one, as I've mentioned before, about International Women's Day. Do I take that to the working party stroke, whatever we ended up calling that?
To be decided.
Do I take it there, first of all, and then think about it and whether people want to run with it or not, or whether is that the place to go with it first of all?
If it's an event, yes, it probably would be useful to bring it to the events working group steering party, whatever we're calling it.
Okay.
And then we can have that conversation with Melissa to see if it's something that the town council would support in any way, or if it becomes a town council event. You know, those are all things that kind of get reviewed at the end of the year when we're looking at setting the budget and what the events are for next year. So that would be something to add to that.
Basic question, when does the year run from to?
The events calendar is annually, so it's January to December.
Okay, so thinking about next March, we're still in business for next March.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Motta, any other business?
No, thank you.
Councillor Williamson. Councillor Creek, happy days. I will call the meeting to a close. Thank you. And we did it.